Hi all. Before we begin, I just wanted to let you know that if there happens to be a second homeowner, so whether it's a significant other of any type or roommate or whatever the arrangement happens to be, that both of you get this information together. It's very important that everyone be on the same page, and it's very important that everyone get their questions answered. So definitely what you need to do is to pick a time when both of you are going to be together so you can just watch the video from beginning to end. And you know what, just better yet, just do it tonight. So if you're going to be hanging out at home watching TV, you might as well just be watching this anyway, and just watch this together so that both of you can get this information and everyone can be on the same page.
Maine, this year, increased electricity rates more than any other state in the entire United States of America. So I'm going to say that one more time. Out of all 50 states, ahead of California, Alaska, Hawaii, Connecticut, all these places, Florida, all these places that people think are really expensive to live in, Maine, the state that you live in, the state that most of us grew up in, increased electricity rates more than any other state in the entire United States of America. And this is obscene on several levels. I mean, first of all, last year's rate increases were ridiculous at 23%. The rate increases the year before that, obscene. The year increases the year before that, obscene as well. So they've been increasing rates on electricity. So your electricity has been going up every single year by a ridiculous amount. Inflation, just regular inflation, in the US is typically between 2 to 3%. So we're looking at 10 to 15 times the rate of inflation several years in a row. And if you look at where we are year to date, so at the time that I'm shooting this portion of the video, and I chose to add this to the rest of the video that we had put together, I chose to add this and put this at the beginning because they're doing it again. They're doing it again. So up until this point, September 17th, Maine had increased rates within 1 year 36%. 36%. Your bill has gone up just in this 1 year alone. Not counting last year, the year before that, the year before that, or the year before that. 36% so far this year up until September 17th. But today, they made another announcement that they're trying to raise rates again. So being number one in the worst possible way was not enough for them. That wasn't enough. So I'm shooting this portion of the video. I'm putting it at the beginning because you really need to understand how urgent the situation is. It really is a situation where you can choose to protect yourself from a bad situation that's continually getting worse, or you can choose not to and just keep doing the same old thing and just get mowed over by your electricity bill. So if you think that Versant or CMP or the other electricity companies in the US are going to lower their rates or keep them low, or maybe this is a temporary thing, then to be blunt, you're kidding yourself. That's not what's happening. They're taking as much as they can get, and they're going to continue to take more. And they really don't care who it affects. They don't care if you've got kids. They don't care if you're retired. They don't care if you're already struggling with your electricity bill. They don't care. They don't care. They're going to keep doing this. So right now, it's a bad situation, okay? And it's getting worse. All right? And to be clear too, I mean, we're talking about billion-dollar companies. Think about every single person that you know that lives somewhere that has electricity, right? What do we got? Like 1.5 million people in Maine? Something like that? Average electricity bill, $200 per month. What is that? 300 million? 30 million? Yeah, I just checked. I pulled up my calculator. 1.5 million people times $200 a month. We're looking at $300 million in revenue that they pull in per month. And we're looking at infrastructure that's already been there for a long, long time. So the maintenance costs are not that high. We're talking about $1 billion company. We're talking about executives that are making millions of dollars per year, and they just want more. And like I said, it doesn't matter the situation that you're in. If you're young and just trying to get started, maybe you just got married, you got your first job, you're trying to get ahead in life, but now you got an electricity bill that's going to make it a lot more difficult to do. Or you're retiring, or you're already retired, or you have kids, so your expenses are going up. This is really what you're facing, okay? And listen, just to be clear, this isn't a sales tactic. This is reality. Google it right now. Behind me, I put several different articles that should be kind of floating by, so that you can see just some of the articles that are out there. But you can just Google it. Just Google it. Look up how high has my electricity bill gone up in Maine this year, or how much has Maine increased their electricity rates this year in 2025. And you'll see a whole slew of articles telling you the exact same thing. I mean, I just picked out a couple of ones just to kind of give you examples so that you can see for sure exactly what I'm talking about. So it's just really important for you to get this information right now, okay? And just to give you a preview of what we're going to talk about in the rest of the video, solar does not add another expense. So a lot of you are going to think, geez, you know what? I can't afford another expense right now. I can't afford to buy something else. We're not asking you to. You already have an electricity bill. It's too high. What I believe that you should do, and I'm going to make a pretty solid case for it, is that you should replace your current electricity bill with a lower monthly solar bill. And there are some very important differences between these two bills, okay? So first of all, say you save $5 a month right now, right? This is the structure that most people work with, so you don't have to pay a ton of money up front. You don't have to pay any money up front. You just get a monthly solar bill that's going to replace your current electricity bill. So you're not adding an expense, you're reducing an expense that you already have. Maybe it's a couple dollars, but you know what? Let's play devil's advocate. Say that it's the same. What if your solar bill is exactly the same? Okay? But there are some very important differences between what's happening with your electricity bill versus what would be happening if you went solar and had a solar bill that replaced it. First of all, your current electricity bill, as I've already established, is going up. And it's going up by an insane amount every single year. And I'm just telling you, they're not going to stop. Okay? Your solar bill stays the same. It never, ever goes up on you. It is what it is. Okay? So could you imagine if the electricity company called you right now and said, you know what? You've been a great customer. We're not going to raise your electricity bill for the next 25, 30 years. What would you say to that? I mean, you probably wouldn't believe it, but then if you did, if you found out it's legit, like, no, you're not kidding, you'd be through the roof, right? I mean, if they called you right now and said, we're not going to increase your bill for the next 30 years, you'd be incredibly happy. You'd be ecstatic. And what if, on top of that, they said, hey, you know what? Towards the tail end as well, we're going to give you several years worth of free electricity. Upwards, potentially a decade worth of free electricity. And given that that's down the line, Those will be the years where a lot of people are going to be on their retirement, on your 401k or Social Security, or however you're going to be getting income during your retirement. But for most people, you're going to be on a fixed income, and it's during those years that for most people, you're going to be getting several years worth of free electricity. I'm going to cover that in a lot of detail. I'm just kind of giving you a preview, okay? And another item is that your property value goes up by an incredible amount. So home builders and house flippers right now are installing solar in with the build. And what happens is that if you install solar on a Monday and you sell it the next day on Tuesday, guess what? Not only did solar pay for itself, you actually come out ahead by several $1,000s. Solar pays for itself and then some in the event that you move. And I'll go over that in a lot of detail as well. Okay? But that's a preview of what we're going to get into. And I don't expect you to take my word for it. Go ahead and play devil's advocate. In this video, there are points where I do probably get a bit long-winded, but it's because that there's a lot of details that you really need to understand. So I'm very thorough, and I've been doing this for a while. So I've encountered just about every question that you're going to think of. Questions that you might have right now, but questions that hadn't occurred to you yet, but would occur to you tomorrow or the next day or maybe a week from now. And I cover every single thing in this video. So please just watch it from beginning to end. Because you have to make a choice. You have to make a choice. A lot of people just kind of stick with what they're used to because that's their comfort zone. Okay? I'm used to, driving my car to work every day. I'm used to watching TV every day at 6 o'clock. Like, I'm used to not going to the gym. I'm used to, having the thermostat at 72 degrees, right? A lot of people will continue just doing the same old thing because they're used to it. They watch the same TV show every night. And then, you change it, you change someone's routine on them, and then they get a little uncomfortable. They get a little bit outside of their comfort zone. So that's really what we're kind of dealing with. I understand that you're used to paying your electricity bill. You're used to paying your bill with Versant, with CMP, whoever. And that's what you're used to. So you're probably going to be somewhat comfortable with that. Although, of course, I'm sure you're not thrilled about the amount of money that you're spending. But for a lot of people, solar is basically the unknown, right? It's something different. You really don't know what it's about for most of you, but you will after this video. And what I'm telling you right now is that your current situation is one that should make you feel uncomfortable. You should be extremely uncomfortable with the fact that they are going to mow you down with your electricity bill. If you're already struggling with it, you're going to get to a point potentially where you can't afford it. If you already can't afford it, it's going to get even worse. And you know what? Say that you're doing great financially. Is it ever smart to pay more for something when you could spend less? Did you end up doing well financially in life by doing that? So I'm going to explain everything from beginning to end. Everything about how solar works. I'm going to cover all the details. So by the end of this, you're going to understand how solar works. All your questions are going to be answered. But it's very, very important to get this information right now. Number one, because they're raising electricity rates again. It's already at 36% this year. Look it up. And they're trying to do it again. Being number one in the nation and rate increases wasn't good enough. They still wanted more. And also, solar is about to get more expensive. So right now, you can replace your current electricity bill with a lower monthly solar bill. Again, maybe it's the same, right? But it's usually like say it's $5 lower, okay? And I've impressed upon you the idea that You're not adding an expense, you're simply replacing an expense that you already have. But one of the reasons that it's it's so easy to transition over to solar because the solar bill that you end up paying is the same or hopefully a couple dollars less than what you're already paying. It's in the same range. One of the reasons that solar has been cheap enough to be able to do that, to be able to set up that structure, is because there has been federal support. There has been government support for solar. So when you file your taxes, you get like a gigantic tax refund because you went solar. For most people, it's like $6, $8, $10,000. And we'll figure out exactly what yours will be. And that's been going on for several years now. But guess what? That's ending now too. They just decided to end that. Okay? So it's going away. You're not going to have the same opportunity later on. I'll explain why. I'll explain what the federal government support for solar currently looks like, how you take advantage of it, how it's going to affect your bottom line, how much money you're going to save as a result. I'll get into that in a lot of detail, okay? But this is the situation, all right? So for heaven's sake, just protect yourself. Hi, my name is Jared, and I'm here to tell you everything that you need to know about solar power. I've been doing solar power for over 15 years at this point, and I've been working with customers directly that entire time. So at this point, I've heard it all. I've heard every question that you have right now, and I've also heard every question that you're going to think of tomorrow or maybe the next day that you don't even know that you're going to have yet. So this video is designed to give you all the information that you need. It's going to answer every single question that you're going to have. So I would simply ask that you watch this video from beginning to end. I'm going to keep it straight and to the point because it's very important that you get this information right now. The reason is that solar is about to get a lot more expensive. Right now, it's cheap. You're able to get it for less than what you're spending right now on your electricity bill, and you're going to save a heck of a lot of money, but that is going to be ending soon. The federal government has made changes that's going to make solar a lot more expensive. I'm going to explain more about that later, but please just give me your attention, watch the video from beginning to end, and if you do so, you will have all the information that you need to make a yes or no decision on whether or not to install solar panels. So why install solar panels? I mean, let's just get straight to the point. Very few people are installing solar because of environmental reasons. I literally had one person out of hundreds of people over the last 15 years say that they specifically wanted to go solar to save the environment. Even the biggest tree huggers out there just want to save money. It always comes down to money. Now, electricity is electricity, okay? Like there's no difference between the electrons that you're getting from the utility company when they're burning oil or coal or whatever else, versus the electricity that you would get from solar panels placed on the roof of your home. Electrons are electrons, electricity is electricity. And if you want to be a part of the world, you need to have electricity, to run your lights, to run the television, for a lot of people it's heating and cooling and all the appliances that you need just to be a part of things and to live. So electricity is electricity. If you're going to spend more money than you have to for electricity, that's a foolish move. Now, most people aren't able to afford the current electricity rate increases that are happening. So electricity rates, both by Versant and CMP, have increased astronomically over the last 5 or so years.
And you can look all of this up. It's all verifiable online. But if you look up the highest electricity rates in the nation right now, Maine is number four out of 50 states. And it wasn't that way 5 years ago. 5 years ago, electricity rates were reasonable in Maine. Now we're up there with California and Hawaii. And what has happened is that both Versant and CMP have pushed or otherwise attempted to raise rates at 50%. Can you imagine your rates going up by 50% the following year, and then 50% the year after, and then 50% the year after that? That's literally what they've been trying to do. Now, the state stepped in and blocked those attempts at 50% rate increases, and then compromised with the utility companies at roughly half of what they wanted to do. The last rate increase that was approved through Versant was actually 23%. 23% is an insane number, okay? So inflation, just in general, is usually around like 2-3%. Hopefully your salary is increasing, or your way of making an income is increasing by that amount every single year because the dollar is worth less, right? So that's inflation, right? But 23%, that's like 10 times that. It's absolutely ridiculous, okay? So those numbers are nuts, So what I want you to understand is that when you go solar, by Maine state law, you are now protected from all future rate increases. You're connected to the grid, and I'll get into why that's important here in a moment. But because you're producing your own electricity, all you're doing is paying for the solar panels, and that's it. So when you go solar, you take your current electricity bill, and for the most part, it's eliminated.
So the thing that you just really need to understand is that with solar, you're not adding an expense. You're reducing an expense that you already have. A lot of people, when they consider going solar, especially when they're considering going solar for the first time, they're kind of thinking of it in the wrong way. Like they're asking themselves, like, should I make this investment? Should I make this purchase? And my response to that is you already are making this purchase. Like every single month you're buying electricity. You're gonna have to buy electricity regardless. Like I'm trying to put you in a position where when you're buying electricity, you're spending less for it. Okay? So that's really just the conceptual framework that you need to be thinking in here. You're not adding an additional expense. You're not adding an additional investment. You're already invested. You're already invested in a really bad investment that's going to continue to get higher and higher and higher every single year and to go on forever. Like I'm trying to get you out of this bad investment that you're already in and get you into something much better where you're going to be locked in. Your price is never going to go up. You're going to have the same bill for 30 years. And that's the first way that you save is price protection. And I'll get into the other two in a lot of detail and stuff like later on. But this is really what it comes down to. You're not adding an expense. You're reducing an expense that you already have. And we'll get into some of those details later. And also we'll get into why it's important to stay connected to the grid. So at this point, you pretty much have all the reason that you need to install solar panels. You're in a bad position right now. The utility companies are continually raising rates on you. And when you go solar, you're protected. So you're not going to be spending any more on a monthly basis than what you are right now. But you're going to lock that in. You got price protection going forward, and you're actually going to end up with several years worth of free electricity
on the tail end, because you're an owner, you're owning your own electrical production instead of being dependent on the utility company. So that's it. I mean, that's really all the reason that you need in order to install solar panels. Do you want to spend more on electricity, or do you want to spend less? It really is that simple. But there are some other questions, of course, that you're going to have on solar power, and I'm going to go through all of those right now, because if you hadn't thought of that question yet, I know you're going to think about it later. So if you don't mind, please just watch the video to the end, because these are concerns that you're going to have at some point. So one question that I always get is, why don't I just get off the grid? Why don't I just get off the grid completely, get me some batteries, and that way I don't have to deal with the utility company anymore at all? And the answer to that question is yes, of course you can do that, but batteries don't hold as much electricity as most people think that they do. So they're really expensive. You're spending, $7,000-8,000 for a battery backup that actually only holds about 3 to 4 hours worth of electricity. So it's expensive. They only last for about 6 years in most circumstances. So you're going through 4, sometimes 5 sets of battery backup systems over the lifetime of your solar panels. So realistically, that's adding upwards of $30,000 to the cost of your solar project, effectively doubling the cost. And what are you getting from it? 3 or 4 hours worth of electricity in the event that the grid goes down for a couple hours. But you're really not getting as much as you think that you are. So there are several reasons why it's very important to stay connected to the grid. So number one, when you're overproducing electricity with your solar panels, that overproduction, if you had a battery backup system, would be extremely limited. So once those batteries are full, they're full. And if your solar panels are producing more electricity than what you're using, then really that's just a waste. However, when you're connected to the grid, according to Maine state law, all that overproduction is kept track for you by the electricity company. So no matter how much you're overproducing, all that overproduction you're getting credit for. So just think about it as, deposits to your account, and you really don't want to have any limit to those deposits, and you can draw on that when needed. Also, there are going to be some times where you're just not producing very much electricity, and you're going to need more really than what the solar panels are going to provide. I mean, that'll be the case at nighttime. So that happens once every 24 hours. And battery backup system, that's 3 to 4 hours, but, nighttime, 10, 12 hours worth of electricity that you're going to need for your heating system, your cooling system, and any other appliances that you're using overnight. So just for the sake of nighttime electricity consumption, you really do need to stay connected to the grid. So the grid, in essence, is just a gigantic battery that we're all already connected to. So when you need additional electricity, it's there for you. When you're overproducing electricity, they're keeping track of it for you on the grid. And by the way, it's also monitored, so you're able to see that as well. But you're unlimited in the amount of electricity that you're able to pull, and you're unlimited in the amount of electricity that you're able to overproduce and then push onto the grid. So having that dependability of the grid really is essential. And it's only $12 to be connected to the grid per month, whereas, as I said, a battery backup system, you're looking at $7,000 to $8,000, and you're going through 4 or 5 of them over the course of the lifetime of the system. So yeah, you really do need to stay connected to the grid. And guess what? If tomorrow someone invents some magical battery that can store unlimited amounts of electricity, you can always do that later. So no option is ever shut down for you. But what we do is we're going to install solar panels. You're going to be connected to the grid, so you're able to start saving money now. And really what's going to happen later on is that if you want to add a battery backup system later on, you can still do that. But the key is really just to get started. Now with solar, you're getting savings. So you're owning your electrical production. And all the benefits of ownership are going to apply. People are saving upwards of 75, 80% of what their electricity cost would have been had they not installed solar panels. So when you do the math, there's a tremendous amount of savings when you install solar. But in order for it to work on a practical daily basis, staying connected to the grid really is the way to go. So at this point, you're pretty much getting the best of both worlds. You're getting all the benefits of staying connected to the grid at the same time that you're getting all the savings power of solar power. So both of the benefits, really none of the drawbacks. And again, you can add batteries later, but not right now. So how are we different? That's a pretty fair question to ask. Well, first of all, let me just give you a little bit of company history here. So I had lived in Austin, Texas, around like 2013 to 2015, and that's when I originally started the company. Originally called Second Energy, but then we had realized that was just a really awful name. So we maintained the exact same company, but just upgraded the name. And then the division of the company dedicated towards installations in Maine is SolarMe. So just thought that would be a little bit more clever. But we've been in business since 2015, literally hundreds and hundreds of installs and several 5-star reviews. And one of the ways that we're different, really, to put it bluntly, is our no BS approach. A lot of solar companies will come in and kind of really make a big deal about their brand name panels or their special inverters or, whatever. And to be honest, like all of that is just complete BS. Any solar installer can install any solar panel out there. They're virtually all the same. And as long as it's a tier 1 panel, they have the exact same warranties. The standard warranty is 25, 30 years. And it's the exact same thing with the inverters. And as long as you utilize a microinverter, which Enphase is the premier microinverter, and we utilize that on all of our installations as well, there really is no difference. So a 300 watt panel, Trina, is the same as a 300 watt Silfab, and Quinoa, or any of the other AU Optronics, Samsung. So they're all exactly the same. The technology is exactly the same. They're made of the same materials, and a lot of times they're even made in the exact same factories. So they put just a different sticker on it, to have a different name brand. So if someone's trying to get you to believe that their panels are somehow special and that you need to pay more because their panels are special, that's really just a sales technique, and I don't like it. I'd rather just kind of cut to the chase and let you know that it really is about savings. And if there were a difference in quality, that would be one thing. But the fact of the matter is that there really is no difference in quality. In terms of warranties, they're all the same. But then like protection from extreme heat, extreme cold, impact, so resistance like hail damage,
Um, all of that is exactly the same. So that's one really big reason that we're different from other companies, is that we're just not going to BS you. And that's really what it comes down to. Um, Another thing that really makes us different is that we're utilizing local people pretty much with every single thing that we do. I mean, I'm a Mainer. I'm originally from Millinocket, Maine. You know, I've lived in Millinocket, I've lived in Bangor, I've lived in the South Portland and Westbrook area. So, I mean, I'm from Maine. I'm a McLaughlin. I'm related to half of Medway, Maine, quite literally. So, and likely the individual who is asking you to watch this video is either a customer or a former customer, you know, living in Maine. I mean, really, once you're a customer of ours, you're a customer for life, because we're responsible for your warranty, you know, pretty much through the next 30 years. So it's a long-term relationship. But in any case, you know, we're your neighbors. And you know, we're not, you know, some giant corporate office out in California where you got to dial some 800 number and then be on hold for 45 minutes just to talk to somebody who really isn't going to give you an answer anyway. If there's an issue, you're talking to your neighbor. So likely the person who's signing you up or asking you to watch this video as a part of the process of learning about solar, they're likely a neighbor, a friend, a family member, and that's really the way that I want it. Solar saves people a lot of money, and that's really of great benefit to communities. And if at the same time we can create jobs within the community, whether it's as a solar promoter, you know, so someone who's spreading the word and asking you to watch this video and maybe teaching you a couple of things about solar. I mean, we call those solar promoters. Or the guy who's on your roof, you know, putting the solar panels in. They're all local people. And so typically they're either a member of the community that you live in or a neighboring community. And the difference there is that you know, we're saving people money locally, and also we're creating jobs locally, and keeping that money within the community, I think, is really important. You know, rather than taking money out of the community. So that's really what it comes down to. No BS. I'm not going to BS you really on anything. I'm going to give it to you as straight as I possibly can. And also, we're building community by creating jobs in your local area. Okay, so there are some basic requirements that you need to meet in order to go solar. So first of all, you need to be a homeowner. You can't be renting, or of course a business owner. So you have to own the property that we're going to install solar panels at. And if you happen to be a renter, then we need to talk to the actual property owner in order to go solar. Also, what most people do is, instead of just paying for an entire solar power system up front, what you end up doing is simply replacing your current electricity bill with a lower monthly solar bill. That's what most people do. So say that your average electricity bill is $200 per month. Okay, fine. Well, let's get rid of that bill that's constantly going up, right? With a solar bill that's going to stay the same, right? And then eventually it's going to disappear. But in order to do that, at least one of the homeowners, because if there are two homeowners, then we can simply utilize a person with the better credit score. But at least one homeowner needs to have a credit score of 650 or above. And also, you need to have a household income of at least $35,000 or above. And the reason for that is that the federal government literally pays 30% of the entire system cost. And, you know, one thing that I tend to hear from people when they're first considering going solar, people will say things like,
oh yeah, I'm just going to wait for the price of solar panels to go down, or the technology's not there yet. There's going to be like some great advancement and it's going to get super cheap. Okay, well, I mean, that's just the panels. And with a solar power system, you got panels, you got inverters, you got wiring, you got conduit. There's a whole bunch of other components simply besides the actual panels that go into the racking, that go into the materials cost. Um, and then also there's the labor cost as well. So the guys that are on the roof and the commission for whoever is signing you up to go solar. So sign up a friend to go solar, have them watch this video, you make $1,000. So if you want to sign up with us, become a solar promoter, great. Go ahead and just do so after you watch this video. We'd love to have you. So, but the federal government is paying 30% of everything. And that includes all associated costs with the business. So like I said, the materials, the labor, the cost of somebody's office that they have to account for, their trucks, their gas. So it's 30% of the entire project cost is probably a better way of saying it. And the way that the federal government makes that contribution is through your taxes. So true to form with the federal government, the best they'll really ever do is to give you your own money back, and that's exactly what happens when you end up going solar. So you'll sign up for solar panels in 2025, and when you file your 2025 taxes, so technically you can file in January, and I would encourage you to do that. But say that you wait until April or whatever. When you file your taxes, your tax liability is decreased by 30% of the entire system cost. So say that the entire system cost was $10,000, then that means that the amount of taxes that you owe for 2025 is reduced by $3,000, so 30% of $10,000. Or if it's a $20,000 system, then that's $6,000 that you would be that your tax liability is decreased. Now, most people, just as regular employees, are having money taken out of their paycheck every single pay period. And technically that's going over to the federal government, and you're prepaying your taxes. And when you file your taxes in April or January or whenever you're filing them, technically you're getting your own money back. So the reason that we say a household income of $35,000 or above is that that's usually the threshold to where you're paying enough in federal income taxes to take advantage of that full 30% federal income tax credit. And literally what happens is that when you file your taxes, say that you were an employee and having money taken out of your paycheck, when you file your tax returns, if it were a $20,000 system, 30% of that, $6,000. Well, you're getting a check for $6,000 back from the federal government, or $6,000 plus what you would have normally gotten. So that's how that whole thing works. Or if you're a 1099 independent contractor or a business owner or whatever, you're just paying $6,000 less in taxes. And if you had waited until tax day to pay that money, well, then you just owe $6,000 less. By way of example. So 30% of the system cost. It's just important that you check to see if you have that amount of tax liability, that you pay at least that much in federal income taxes. And $35,000 is typically the threshold for that. So the next qualification is something that you're going to need to check for yourself. So if there is shade on a solar panel, that solar panel will not produce electricity. Now, we use what are called microinverters, which means that there's an inverter underneath every single solar panel. So there's independent production at every single panel. So if one panel is covered, then and the others aren't, then all the other solar panels are still producing electricity. And that's actually a really good feature. And another way that we're always utilizing the best equipment that's available. But if there's a major obstruction that's above the roof line, and it's casting a shadow on your roof, then you're going to have to take that out. So you're either going to have to cut the tree, below the roof line if it just takes a little bit of a trim or something, and you're able to get it below the roof line just by giving it a trim, great. If not, you're going to have to cut that tree down. Now, anything that is north of the home doesn't matter. I mean, unless the branches are extending over the actual roof. But us being in the northern hemisphere, the sun is always at an angle. It's never directly up overhead like it would be at the equator. So shadows are always going north. Sun rises in the east, obviously, and then sets in the west. So eastern facing panels can produce great and do. Western facing panels can produce great, and southern facing panels produce the best because they're able to get both eastern, so morning sun, and afternoon and evening sun. Now, the vast majority of people, typically you're going to have like portions of your roof that are southeast facing or southwest facing. And what we'll do is we'll maximize the amount of roof space that's going to produce the largest amount of electricity for you. And all of the projections as to what the panels are going to produce. So later I'm providing an actual chart for you. But all of those are based off from what I call a worst case scenario. So like the least amount of electricity that an unshaded solar panel will produce. Meaning that if it were purely facing like due west and we're not getting any southern facing exposure at all. So that's kind of like the most conservative numbers. So obstructions are an issue, and it's your responsibility as a homeowner or property owner to remove any obstruction. Now, if you have an obstruction east of the home, okay, well, that'll block the morning sun, right? If you got a big tree, big bushy tree that's blocking the eastern portion of your roof, okay, well, then hopefully we can utilize the western part of the roof. Or vice versa. Say that there's a giant tree west of the home that would cast a shadow during the evening time. Okay, well then we can load up the eastern portion of your roof and any other portions that happen to be some version of south facing. So there are solutions in those types of scenarios. But if you got a big tree or other type of obstruction, but typically it's 99% of the time it's just a tree. If you got a really big tree, and if it's south of the home, you got to get rid of it. And that's your responsibility as a homeowner. We don't do tree removal service. It's just not something that we're able to offer. I just want to be absolutely clear that this is how solar power works. And if you want panels that are going to produce, and if you're unwilling to remove a tree or trim it below the roof line, then you shouldn't go solar if you have a giant tree south of the home, because that's going to shade the panels and they won't produce. Any other scenario will work fine, but yeah, either you got to remove the tree south of the home, get it below the roof line, or don't go solar. So no obstruction south of the home. And then also, you have to be currently paying federal income taxes. And I already talked about that in a decent amount of detail when we're talking about income requirements and all of that. But not everybody pays federal income taxes. Some people might be on disability, or a lot of people that are on Social Security, might be paying just a tiny amount of taxes. So certainly not enough to be able to cover the federal income tax credit. So you have to be paying federal income taxes. If you're unemployed, if you don't have any income to report for the year 2025, then you're not going to be able to claim that federal income tax credit. That's what they call it, but it's literally giving you your own money back for the year 2025. Now you can roll it over. So say that you're out of work for 2025, but you're working in 2026. Then fine, you can use the federal income tax credit for 2026. But I just want to be clear that you have to be paying federal income taxes, and typically the income threshold is roughly around $35,000. But just be aware. I mean, if you got a lot of kids, you got 5 or 6 kids, or if you've taken some really hefty tax credits during the year, that's just something to be aware of. But typically, if you're above that income threshold, you're good. So be a homeowner. At least somebody has to have a credit score of 650 or above. Household income, so combined household income. If one person has a good credit score, then that's the person that the solar loan is going to go under. But you can use the combined household income under that one individual. No large obstructions south of the home because the panels just won't be producing. And just to doubly reiterate, you need to be paying federal income taxes. So those are the requirements in order to qualify for solar panels and to be able to replace your current electricity bill with a lower monthly solar bill. Go over just some of the basics of how solar works. So, of course, when sunlight hits solar panels, the solar panels are producing electricity. However, the panels, when they're producing electricity, it's produced in direct current. Your home does not run on direct current, it runs on alternating current. So that direct current electricity has to be inverted and changed into alternating current. Now, in our particular case, there are what are called microinverters that are underneath every single one of these panels. So that DC to AC inversion is literally happening right up here underneath the solar panel. And then we have a junction box where all the electricity basically comes together. And you might have more than one array. So you might have a group of solar panels over here, another group over there, and every roof's going to look a little bit different. We're just going to maximize the design to what's going to work best for you. And then we run conduit. That's going to go down from the roof to the side of the home. And what happens is that the electricity then enters your home through your main service panel, so your breaker box. It's called backfeeding. So we're backfeeding electricity from the solar panels once it's changed into alternating current, and that electricity goes literally right into your home. And if the panels are producing in that particular moment in time, let's say 50 kilowatts, and the home is using 50 kilowatts, well, then you're just literally running on solar energy at that moment. But there are going to be times when you're going to be overproducing, and in that particular instance, then the additional electricity is pushed out onto the grid. And in other moments, and this goes back and forth, like literally all day long. Like at 2:30, you might be producing more than what you use. But at 2:31, you might be using more than what you produce, like when you turn the stove on and the microwave on or something like that. So this is going back and forth all day long, back and forth and back and forth. And whenever the home needs additional electricity, it just pulls it straight from the grid. So it'll use what the solar panels is making first, but whatever difference needs to be made up, it takes it directly from the grid. And whenever you're overproducing, you're pushing that electricity onto the grid. And what happens is that there's a special meter that is installed on the side of your home. It's called a net meter, and it's keeping track of how much electricity you're pushing onto the grid and how much electricity that you're taking. And it just basically calculates the net. And what you're charged on from the utility company is your net usage at the end of the month. Now, what's your bill going to look like? You're going to see a whole bunch of credits on your bill. And every month is going to look a little bit different. You know, some months you're going to overproduce, in which case you're going to see credits on your bill. You'll just see the connection fee, which like I said, in Maine is, you know, $12. But if you're producing more than what you're using, then you're literally going to see negative usage on your bill. Now, a cool thing about Maine is that if you have more electricity produced at a particular property, and say that you own another property like a camp or something, like out at the lake or whatever it is, you can also designate that your overflow of production be pushed to a second property. Now, we can't dramatically oversize the system. We can only go above by, you know, roughly like 15%. And it really isn't worth it for you to just, like, you know, try and double the amount of solar production versus what the home uses. Like that really doesn't make financial sense for you. Solar isn't a money maker. It's not like you're going to have a cash machine up there on your roof. But it's a fantastic savings vehicle. And given the high price of electricity and the fact that those prices are continuing to go up, solar is making an incredible difference. But yeah, whatever overflow that you have, if you do happen to have a second property, you can designate that overflow be credited to the electricity bill at your second property, which is pretty cool for sure. And how do we know how big of a solar power system that you're going to need? Well, we basically reverse engineer it. So we look at what you utilized last year. And, you know, that's going to be a rough indication of what you're going to need, you know, this coming year. And it tends to be pretty accurate. Those patterns don't vary by a lot. And what we do in order to figure out how much a solar power system is going to produce is, you know, we start by importing 20 years worth of weather data. And there are weather stations, and by that I mean like collection points for data at various points throughout the state. And typically on military bases, there's going to be a weather station that's just constantly collecting data, you know, so humidity and temperature and everything. So we're able to input your location, and we'll figure out which weather station is closest to you. And based off from the weather patterns in that area, we'll be able to figure out exactly how many solar panels that you will need to cover your usage in an average year. So yeah, it's pretty cool how we're able to do that. And will there be some variance? Yeah, sure. You know, so some months you might have an especially rainy April, but over the course of the year, it tends to even out. So I mean, if you have a rainy April or rainier April than usual, typically you end up with like a sunnier May or a sunnier June. But yeah, it's all based off from averages, and this is how we calculate it. And we utilize a lot of data to get you a pretty accurate breakdown of what you're going to need in terms of solar production in order to cover your usage. Now, how do we know that the solar panels are working properly? Well, they're monitored. You know, so I already told you about that bidirectional net meter that's on the side of your home. But in addition to that, you also have another monitoring device that monitors the solar production at each individual panel. So it'll tell you not only what the system is producing, it'll also tell you what each individual panel is producing as well. One question we get all the time is, you know, what happens in the event of hail? You know, so if there's a hailstorm and my panel breaks, you know, what am I going to do then? So First of all, this is a part of your warranties. So there's pre-market testing that's done on every single solar panel. And at SolarMe, we only utilize top tier products. And there literally are rankings in terms of solar panels. You got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And some inverter systems are better than others. But it's all according to a particular classification. It's really not by name brand so much. It's really by what tier we're looking at. So we only install top tier solar panels. And in order to be ranked as a tier 1 solar panel, they have to do a hail test. And that's what you're looking at right here. So they use one of these guns, that looks kind of like a pitching machine. And they shoot baseball size hail at a speed of 100 miles an hour towards the solar panel. And in order to make sure that the solar panel is able to sustain a heavy hailstorm. And they do. So solar panels do not get damaged by hail. In some areas, what we end up seeing is that there might be a heavy hailstorm at a particular location, and what you'll see is that someone's roof might have sustained damage in the areas where that home does not have solar panels. So there'll be a lot of damage to the composite shingle, and you'll see the indents and everything, but the solar panels are fine. And of course, the shingles underneath the solar panels are fine as well. So solar panels don't break from hail. That's just not something that happens. Now, in the event that, say that there's a hailstorm and the roof is damaged, because that is something that does happen pretty often. Or by pretty often, I mean you're likely to see that maybe once over the lifetime of your system. And it's a fairly common occurrence for us, where if we're doing 100 or 200 installs over the course of the year, we'll also have a couple of what we refer to as roof replacement jobs, where the shingles around the solar panels are damaged and hence need to be replaced. But the thing is that in that particular circumstance, you're not the one that's paying for that. That's what your homeowner's insurance is for. But regardless, the first phone call that you make in the event of a hailstorm and you've sustained damage to your roof should be to us. Reason being is that, number one, we're going to get that covered for you. And we're able to get that covered without you raising your insurance premiums. So the solar panels are attached to the roof. And the moment that they're actually attached to the home, it's considered a fixture. So that's a part of your pre-existing homeowner's insurance. So as long as you got homeowner's insurance, you're good. And in the event that there is a hailstorm, the panels are going to be fine. The roof might be damaged. In that particular circumstance, call us first. Don't call the roofer. Call us first, because we're going to get you a special deal on our roofers and hopefully, eat into whatever deductible that you might have by getting you a good deal with the re-roof job. But we're going to go ahead and handle all of that for you. So we'll take the solar panels off and we'll coordinate with the roofing crew to put the shingles back onto the roof. And then we'll put the solar panels right back on. And that particular process, when coordinated properly, is typically done over 3 or 4 days. So your solar power system might be down for 3 days or so, but that's fine. As soon as we get the solar panels back up and reconnected, you'll have a brand new roof, and the solar panels will be producing properly. So hail is not a problem. Now let's talk just a little bit about the warranties. There are 2 types of warranties, okay? So there's the manufacturer's warranty, which the primary component is solar panels, but there's also a manufacturer's warranty on the inverters. So it's solar panels and inverters that are the major components that that are the ones that you, of course, we make sure that you have a very strong warranty on. And the typical manufacturer's warranty is 25 years, but you can also invest in solar insurance, which will extend that to 30 or 30 plus, which is pretty cool. And so just to note, it's not as if solar panels quit on their 25th birthday. What tends to happen is that, at year 25, a 25-year-old panel won't be producing as much as it did in year one. Maybe it's producing like 85 or 90% of what it produced at year one. But at that point, the solar panels are paid off. So you're getting free electricity. So what you want to do is just leave those solar panels up there as long as they produce. If you leave them undisturbed and just keep letting them produce, they'll keep producing 30, 35, 40 years. That's just what happens with the technology. And as long as they're up there, as long as they're producing, just let them do their job and just keep getting free electricity as long as you can. So with the solar panels, roughly 25, 30 years of a warranty that you're going to have from the manufacturer. And that's an extension from a 25 to a 30-year warranty with the solar insurance that I mentioned. And the other warranty is what we refer to as the workmanship warranty. So that warranty, it's not through the solar panel or the inverter manufacturer. This is the warranty that's through us as your installer. And specifically what that warranty states is that the installation has to be free from defect. So, really, it's just doing the right thing. So if we mucked up on your install and, one of the panels isn't working properly, that'll pop up right away. We'll be able to see that right on the monitoring, and you'll be able to see that as well. So if there's ever an issue, because of the installation or, something wasn't connected properly or something like that, those things we're able to see immediately. But just for your peace of mind, this is a lifetime warranty. So it doesn't matter if it's 20, 25 years from now, 30 years from now, if there's an issue related to the installation that has gone wrong, say that there's a roof penetration, that was done. And if that wasn't sealed properly and you ended up with a little bit of damage or a leak or something like that, then we're liable for that. And that's specifically what the workmanship warranty is for those types of situations. So, if something goes wrong, if we goof up on something, which is a very, very rare occurrence because we've done literally hundreds of jobs, and roofing technology has only been around for a couple thousand years at this point. So installing solar panels, doing roofing, sealing roof penetrations, it's all pretty standard stuff. And when done properly, it's not an issue. But just for your peace of mind, if there ever is an issue, we're liable. And if the system isn't producing properly, a question that I often get is like, well, who do I call? Like, do I call the manufacturer? Or do I call you? And the answer is just call us. So what'll happen is that we'll pull up your monitoring, we'll take an initial look at what's going on there. And if we're unable to figure it out just by taking a look at your monitoring, then of course we'll have to come out and take a look at your system to see what's going on there. But you're not going to know, and we're not going to know typically if there's an issue with the product from the manufacturer, like say that there's an issue with the solar panel, just a manufacturer's defect, or maybe there's a manufacturer's defect with the inverter. And we're not going to know that until we get on the job site. So if it's something that we did, it's covered under our warranty. By the way, we carry a $1 million insurance policy on every single install that we do. So $1 million, do you think that would be enough to make you whole in the event that there is an issue? I would certainly hope so. If it does happen, that there is an issue with the product itself, say that there's a defective solar panel, then whatever, then we help you file your claim with the manufacturer, and the manufacturer has to replace the panel. And not only do they have to replace the panel, they have to pay for the labor for that panel to be replaced, or for that inverter to be replaced as well. So in either case, if there's an issue, give us a call. We'll figure out which warranty it would fall under, and we'll handle the process for you. But the whole point being that between a lifetime warranty on the major components, which are the solar panels and the inverters, and in addition to that, a warranty on the labor, which is us, that covers everything. So literally there's nothing that can go wrong with the system that is not covered under one of these two warranties. And in terms of installation time, this is going to vary. And right now there's going to be a race. There's going to be a race to December 31st, because that is the time that the federal income tax credit, that incentive from the federal government, is going to expire. It was supposed to go through 2032, but the last bill that went through and was signed by the president basically nixed the whole solar incentive project. So those incentives are going away at the end of this year. But as long as you sign up, and you make payment prior to December 31st, then you're good. So we'll give you your invoice. It'll state paid in full on it. You give it to your accountant, or just enter it into your accounting software if you're filing with TurboTax or whatever. And you'll get that federal income tax credit. Now, for right now, an average wait on an installation is a couple months out. We'll obviously try to get that done as quickly as possible for you. And of course, like I said, we're licensed, bonded, and insured, and we got master electricians on staff. And then there's a special certification for designing solar power systems, which was referred to as the NABCEP certification. And of course, we have NABCEP certified designers that will actually be designing the layout of your system. So we have all the necessary credentials, to be able to fully install and service your solar power system. But yeah, expect a couple of month wait, typically from when you sign up and make your initial payment to when the installation actually takes place. And there are a few things that are going to be happening on the back end. So obviously we'd be handling all the permitting and notifying the utility company. We do all that on your behalf. And if you have a homeowners homeowners association, then we also work with your homeowners association. Now, a question that I happen to get quite often is, well, what if my homeowners association wouldn't let me install solar panels? And the answer to that question is, well, what if they had to? Because in accordance with both state and federal law, every homeowners association has to allow you to install solar panels. And the way that the law is written is that the homeowners association can give some input as to where the solar panels would be placed, but only if it does not affect system production more than 15% or less than 15%. If it's affecting system production more than that, then the solar panels are going to go where we want them to go. Now, for us in the solar installation business, we kind of laugh when we hear that, because if an HOA says, "Oh, we don't want the panels on this portion of the roof," or whatever, Well, anytime that you're changing panels from one face of a roof to another face of the roof, you're always changing system output by more than 15%. So it's kind of silly, but at the end of the day, when you look at the system production, as opposed to what that law dictates with the 15% number, the solar panels are going to go where they need to go every single time. We just have to work with the homeowners insurance, the homeowners association on your behalf, and we have to fill out a couple of forms simply notifying them. I mean, asking permission is the wrong term because they have to approve it. But if you got a homeowners association, we'll fill out the paperwork. We'll send them the designs. They're required to respond within a month of that submission, and that's it. So really, from beginning to end, there's nothing for you to do with regard to the solar installation. And then regarding the installation itself, the installation takes typically anywhere from 1 to 3 days maximum. So the installation itself doesn't take all that long, but then there's an inspection process that happens after. So there's an inspection from the town, and they'll do the structural and the electrical inspection typically at the same time. Those aren't separate inspections; they do them together. So the city will send out an inspector, usually as we're finishing up the install, just to kind of check everything out. And then there's also a separate an inspection from the utility company. That might take a while, especially considering that there's going to be a lot of installs done between now and the end of the year. So we can't really control any of that. I mean, I don't have any control over the city or town that you live in. Sometimes they do the inspection right away. Sometimes there's a line and, we might have to wait 3, 4, or 5 weeks for them to get out. And then with the utility companies, it's the same kind of deal. But you don't have to worry about the inspections. We handle the inspections. We make sure that they pass inspections. And then once the final inspection is passed, then we are able to turn the solar power system on so that it starts producing electricity for you. But roughly, in most circumstances, it's 60 to 90 days. There's going to be a ton of people signing up between now and December 31st. So say we get some snow or whatever, and we end up doing the install. We're not able to get the installation done prior to December 31st. Don't worry about it. It's still going to be fine. You're still going to get your 30% federal income tax credit. We're still going to give you your invoice that you can utilize for your taxes. And then as soon as the snow clears up and it's safe to be on the roof, we'll get the installation done then. But it's just really important for you to claim that 30% federal income tax incentive that's paying for 30% of the whole freaking cost of the system. So the labor, materials, overhead, everything, and that's really a huge benefit. So we'll communicate with you throughout the process, and as soon as we're able to get an installation date or a rough date for you, we'll definitely let you know. And solar panels are black on black at this point. So really no surprise there. They look great. In most situations, it's just like a solid sheet of black is usually what it looks like from the street. And they're very sleek and they tend to blend into the roof. Some of these older ones aren't even really used anymore. So these are called the polycrystalline panels. So you're really not going to get checkerboards up here on your roof. You're going to get more like this, like a nice sleek black look that, depending on the color of your roof, will blend right in. So that's just some of the basics of solar power. I hope that gives you a sense of the process and really what to expect when we go ahead and install solar panels on your roof.
Guys, solar's not complicated. It comes down to one thing and one thing only, and that's saving money. When you go solar, you save a lot of money. And when you add it all up, it's literally tens of thousands of dollars. That's the difference between continuing with what you're doing right now, which might seem comfortable because that's what you've done for a long time. You're just used to paying that bill. You get that bill from the electricity company in the mail, you pay it, that's what you know, that's your comfort zone. But I'm actually going to show you that continuing on this path is not in your best interest. Doing things the way that you have been doing them is not in your best interest. And as a matter of fact, it's going to put you in a pretty bad financial position as time goes on. So the case for going solar is very, very simple. You're saving money. So I'm going to break that down for you. I'm going to show you exactly how you're saving money, and I'm going to give you a sense of actually how much money you're going to save. Later on in the video, I actually have some charts that are going to break that down for you based off from your electricity bill. I'll be able to show you approximately how much money you're going to be saving year 1, year 2, year 3, and over the lifetime of the system. But as we're going through all of this, let's not get it twisted. Let's not make things more complicated than what they are. Okay? Solar is just about saving money. If I'm able to show you that you're saving money by switching over to solar power, you should go solar.
As I stated previously, there's more than one way that you're saving money with solar power. The first is price protection. The second is you're getting roughly a decade or more of free electricity because you own your panels and you're no longer beholden to purchasing electricity from the utility company. And the third is you're actually converting a cost. It's a bill that you're obviously paying every single month, but beyond keeping the lights on, it's not doing anything else for you. It's not accumulating equity. That's money that you're putting in somebody else's pocket. But really at this point, I think I've made it quite clear that you're carrying a very heavy burden. You're dealing with those rate increases, and there's a way to lay down that burden is the point that I'm trying to make to you. So lay down that burden, guys. You don't have to be carrying that rock up the hill every single day just to do it again the following day. There is a way to escape this cycle.
Let's talk about the first way that you save money, price protection. So picture just for one moment, what if Versant called you, okay? What if Versant called you today, or CMP, or whoever your electricity company happens to be, and they said, hey, you know what? You've been such a great customer that we're going to lock in your bill for the next 30 years so that it will never go up on you. How would you feel? You'd be freaking ecstatic. Of course you would. And also at the same time, you would know that you'd be absolutely foolish if you turned it down. I mean, I'm just trying to put this in perspective for you. I know that for most of you, solar is something new, so it's kind of a conceptual leap here, but this is exactly what we're talking about. If Versant or CMP called you right now, or whoever your utility company is, and said, we're going to lock in your bill for the next 30 years, you'd be crazy to turn it down. But that is exactly what we're offering you with solar. That is exactly what's happening here. And you know what? If it helps, think about some of the other bills that you have. Your grocery bill, right? What if your grocery store called you and said, hey, you know what? We just really like you. We're going to lock in your grocery prices for the next 30 years. You're never going to pay more for a gallon of milk or a loaf of bread for 30 years. We're just not going to raise anything on you. That'd be nuts. That'd be absolutely awesome. Or your cell phone bill, or, if you're using regular phone, right? Or your internet, right? What if the internet company or the TV company said, hey, we're never going to raise rates on your internet, or we're never going to raise rates on what you're spending to watch television or water or any of the other bills. So this is me again, just trying to put it into perspective for you. It might help just to think of any of the other expenses that you know you're going to have. You know you're going to have all these expenses for the next 30 years. So if they locked it in for the next 30 years, that would be an incredible impact in your life, and you'd be very excited to have it. And that is exactly what we are offering here. There's literally no difference. And in the next segment, I'm just going to do a quick demo, and I'm going to go back to the calculator. I would simply ask that you take out a calculator. You might have an old school calculator just lying around the house, or of course nowadays you can simply just pull open your phone, and there's a calculator somewhere on there that you can utilize, or you can just do what I'm doing right here and just pull up a calculator right on your computer. So I just want you to get a feel for what a 10% yearly rate increase looks like on your electricity bill. All right, so let's start small here, okay? So say your average electricity bill right now is $100 per month. So $100 per month times 1.10, so that's a 10% rate of increase, means that the following year, that $100 bill will become 110, okay? Now let's continue this out. 2 years out, 3, 4, 5. 5 years out, that $100 bill just became 161. Okay? Let's continue. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now that $100 bill, we're at 259. Okay, so 1 year out, we're at 110. 10 years out, wow. Okay. I mean, maybe you're not, seeing a gigantic difference, when your bill is $100 per month and your neighbor's bill is 110. But how do you think you're going to feel when your neighbor's spending $259 and you're still only spending $100 per month? I mean, you can obviously a major difference at this point. So let's continue this out a bit more. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and now the numbers are just getting insane. 16, 17, right? So, and here's the thing. So obviously that $100 per month solar bill that would have replaced all of these bills every single year as time goes on, you're getting more and more glad that you switched over to solar power and you chose to own your electrical production instead of being at the mercy of Versant and CMP and all the other utility companies out there. But also, it's important to note right now that once you start getting into this range, not only are you happy that you've been only dealing with $100 per month solar bill instead of all these crazy bills that are coming down the pike, at this point, your solar bill literally disappears. I mean, you own your solar panels. You don't have to pay for them forever. With Versant, with CMP, that's a forever bill. You're going to have that till the end of time, right? So, but when these bills start getting really, really crazy, that's when you don't even have a solar bill at all. I mean, you own your solar panels, they're producing electricity, you don't have any more payments left, you got a zero solar bill, and you're paying a zero solar bill versus this. And that's where the savings gets really incredible at that point. Now, I started off with a fairly conservative example at $100 per month, realistically, right now, the average bill in the state of Maine for the average Mainer is closer to $200 per month. All right, so I'm just going to do this one more example. All right, so that $200 per month bill, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years out. You want to be spending a $200 solar bill, or do you want to be spending a $322 bill with Versant CMP or another utility company? Okay, let's continue this out. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 years out, you want to have a $200 per month solar bill, or somewhere in the ballpark of like a 518. And of course, we're just getting absolutely silly at this point. Okay, so there are other fees that are included in your bill with the electricity company. So when you go solar, there is a $12 per month connection fee, and there are some other fees associated with the bill as well. So that's the reason that I put together a chart that I'm going to show you in the next segment. But I just kind of wanted you to do this calculator exercise because I think it really just drives it home. I mean, when you're out, not a big deal, but you can see how this adds up just real fast. So this is the choice that you got to make. Are you going to protect yourself or not? I mean, and if you can protect yourself, if protecting yourself means that all you're doing is switching out your $100 electricity bill for a roughly $100 per month solar bill, or a $200 per month electricity bill with Versant or CMP with a $200 per month solar bill, but that bill's never gonna go up and then it's gonna disappear, I think the impact is becoming very obvious. And how are you going to feel 10 years from now, 15 years from now, if you chose to go solar while other people are struggling with their electricity costs? How would you feel if you didn't? So anyway, in the next segment, I have provided a chart which is very accurate, which includes all the fees that you pay in order to stay connected to the grid. So those numbers are even more precise. But at this point, I think that the impact is clear.
Talked a lot about what's been happening with electricity rates here in Maine. I think I made it very clear that the situation is not a good one. And I think I also made it very clear that the situation is getting worse. With Maine having the fourth highest electricity rates in the nation, in my opinion, that's just immoral. And also considering that over the last 5 years, electricity rate increases have been upwards of 23%, which is even more just absurd. And in my opinion, just mean-spirited. Because there's really no need for it. But what I want you to do right now is I want you to get as specific as possible, and we're basically taking a look into what your future electricity bills are going to be over the next 30 years. And this is only given a 10% yearly rate increase. So what I want you to do, take your electricity bills from January through December, add them all up, and then divide by 12. Whatever that number is, find the number that's closest to it in this far left column. Okay? So is your average electricity bill $100 per month? Okay, great. If you're lucky, or if you're managing your usage extremely diligently, but most Mainers are going to be somewhere in the ballpark of $200 per month. And of course, if you have a larger house or a lot of appliances or an electric vehicle or a pool or Anything else that's drawing quite a bit of electricity. Some people will have average electricity bills upwards of $300 per month. But whatever your average is, find the closest number in this column right here. And then I want you to trace it out to year 5, year 10, year 15, 20, 25, and year 30. So this is specific to you. If your average electricity bill is $200 per month, this is what you're going to be paying year 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years out. Now, going solar is about protecting yourself, okay? So if you simply if your average electricity bill were $200 per month, and then you went solar and you locked it in at $200 per month, you're probably going to be pretty happy 5 years from now. And you're definitely going to be ecstatic 10 years from now when your neighbor's paying $456 per month, but you're still only paying $200. And then 15, 20, 25, 30 years out, obviously the difference is gigantic. So this is what your future will look like if you don't go solar. And this is simply fact. Based off from what's been happening right now in Maine. And these are also very conservative numbers. And really what you should expect is for utility companies to raise electricity rates as much as they possibly can. Because honestly, that's what they do. All right, so this is your future. You can protect yourself from these higher rates, these higher bills, simply by going solar. Also, I just wanted to add in there that say that your average electricity bill is $200 per month, you're going to be able to go solar without spending much more than $200 per month. Most people are going to eliminate this $200 per month electricity bill, and you're going to have a solar bill to replace it that's roughly the same or hopefully a couple of dollars less, okay? So you're not going to be spending any more money than what you are right now. So in effect, you're just locking in a $200 per month bill, okay? Now, even having done that, and you can pay off your solar panels as quickly as you want to. I mean, I had a lady who signed up for a 30-year loan and then paid off her solar panels in 3. So she got a couple bonuses at work, and she just decided she's going to pay off her solar panels. So most people pay off the solar panels by year 20 without any financial difficulty whatsoever. You know, that's simply making the minimum payment and paying the same as what you are currently spending on your electricity bill. So if you've paid off your solar panels and the solar panels last for 30 years, but you're done paying for them at year 20, well, then you're getting 10 years worth of free electricity. 10 years worth of free electricity when you were dealing with the most obscene electricity costs that are coming down the pike. So without any pain right now, without any added expense, without coming out of pocket any more than you already are right now, you're able to protect yourself for the next, 15, 20 years. And then you're literally going to have zero for electricity charges. You'll be getting bills in the mail that will literally log 0 kilowatt hours charged to your account. So during those years where the electricity bills are the worst, guess who has a 0 bill? Or actually, to be as accurate as possible, you're just going to have a connection fee, which is $12 per month, and that's nothing, and 20 years from now, it's definitely going to be nothing to be connected to the grid. So which path do you want to be on?
So let me ask you a stupid question. Will you ever not have an electricity bill if you keep doing what you're doing? And meaning not going solar and just continue paying your bill with your electricity company. Will there ever be a point where you just don't have a bill? Well, with solar, that's how it works. So as I was describing in the previous segment, so with solar, listen, even if you're just trading out your current electricity bill for a lower monthly solar bill, listen, that electricity bill with solar, or that monthly bill with solar, that's going to stay the same. It's never, ever going to go up. Whereas your bill with the electricity company, of course, is. And I showed you how crazy that gets. But there's an additional benefit on top of that. When you own your solar panels, guess what? When you're done paying for them, you're done. You don't have another solar bill. It's gone. It's wiped out. Just like your mortgage. When you're done paying your mortgage, cool, right? You paid off the mortgage, it's done. You own it. So listen, think of it this way. Either own your electricity production or they own you. It's really that simple. Okay? So in that graph that I put over here, you're able to see that the savings continues year after year after year. Your solar bill is going to stay the same all the way through. Whereas had you chosen not to go solar, that electricity cost would have continued to go up. And I showed you how crazy those numbers freaking get. But you're gonna reach this point where the solar panels are paid off, they're done. For most people, at that point, you're getting roughly a decade worth of free electricity for solar panels that you own. And of course, you can try to get that solar bill as low as possible. I mean, that's up to you, if you want to try to get a lower payment, or if you just want to pay those suckers off like quickly, and if you have the means to do it, then your total savings actually gets even bigger. But really, at the end of the day, what this comes down to is ownership. Okay? The panels are going to last for at least 30 years. That's what the warranty is, okay? The warranty is for 30 years on both the panels and the inverter. All right? But that doesn't mean that they just give up on their 30th birthday. They don't just throw in the towel and say, "Hey, I'm retired. I'm out." That's not how it works, okay? With solar, once those suckers are paid off, you own them. They continue to produce electricity for you. You're only responsible for the connection fee with the electricity company. And these are things that are mandated and regulated by the state. So right now we're just looking at a $12 per month connection fee. So not a big deal, okay? And the rest you're able to take care of with your solar panels. And like I said, for most people, you're getting a decade or more of free electricity. When would you ever get that? Doing what you're doing, continuing to pay your bill month after month after month with the electricity company. Ownership is power.
So the final way that you're saving money with solar power is that you're converting an expense into an investment. Now, you've already done this before. Why did you choose to own your home instead of just renting forever? The answer is obvious, right? So most people, when you're purchasing a home, you're going to have your mortgage. But I think we would all agree that making your mortgage payment is certainly very different than making a rental payment every single month and giving that money to your landlord. Right now, the utility company is essentially your landlord. It's the exact same thing. Do you want to be making a payment every single month and have that money go to the utility company? Or do you want to be making a payment that's going to be roughly the same and have that money go into your house instead? And when you sell your house, if you end up selling your house in the future, you get all that money back actually and then some. And the following slides, I'm going to go through all of that in significant detail because it's very important for you to understand that if you stay in your home, there's tremendous savings with solar power. If you sell your home, there is still tremendous savings, a tremendous financial benefit to installing solar panels at your home. So regardless of whether you stay in your home or when you sell, you're in a better financial position either way, having installed solar panels on your roof.
So this is a benefit that you're going to see if and when you sell your home in the future. Now, I understand that a lot of you are thinking that you're not really planning on selling in the future. Like, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay here through my entire life, and that is the plan that I have. Okay, but I just want you to understand that if life ends up throwing you a curveball and things don't go as planned and you end up having to sell, listen, I want you to know, not think, but know that you are in a much better financial position having solar panels on your house when you sell in the future than if you didn't. And I'm going to prove that to you in the upcoming slides. So just to name a few names: Scientific American, Forbes Magazine, Consumer Reports, the Department of Energy, Kiplinger. If you're an investor, you're probably quite familiar with Kiplinger. The New York Times. The list actually goes on and on and on and on. But my point is that at this point, there is universal agreement. There's universal agreement among all the major publications, not only that, solar is a good idea or solar might save you money. No, that's not what we're saying. Specifically that solar pays for itself in the event that you end up selling your home. And oftentimes, it's even better than that. So if you're selling your home, what's the first thing that you do? You get an appraisal done. Why? Is an appraisal meant to be subjective or objective? Objective, of course. That's the whole point of getting an appraisal done. All right? If you're the buyer of that property, you want to spend as little as possible. That's just your end of the transaction. If you're selling the property, you want to get as much as you possibly can. That's just the nature of how things go, right? So the appraisal is done to give an actual objective value of the home. It's not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of objective fact. This is what your home is worth. Okay? So anyway, let's delve into the details of an appraisal with regards to how solar is represented on the appraisal itself. So one of our customers, Keith McAleer, he installed solar panels at his house. And actually, it was about 6 months after we had finished the install, he decided he was going to get an appraisal done. Really just for the fun of it or the curiosity of it. He wanted to know what it was going to look like, what his house was going to look like in terms of value with solar panels on his roof. So he got the appraisal done, and this is exactly what you're looking at right here. And first of all, the purchase price of his system was $20,000. Okay. What he paid for the system was $14,000, right? Because you got that 30% federal income tax credit, $20,000, take 30% of that, that's $6,000. So his end cost with the federal income tax credit, with the federal government contribution, was only $14,000. He's already starting $6,000 ahead, and that's just on the appraisal, which is awesome. Now, another thing that I want you to notice is that the solar panels are on the appraisal as a separate line item. And the reason that that's important, not only can we see the specific contribution to the value of our home because of the solar panels, another reason that that is very important is that there's no property tax on the solar panels. So it's great when the value of your home goes up if you're looking to sell it, but it's not so great if the town assesses your home as being worth more and then your property taxes end up going through the roof, right? So the good news is that, hey, you end up staying in your home and your home is now worth more. Cool. Also, that part does not affect your property taxes at all. Okay? So this is the appraisal. The home is objectively worth more. And beyond that, it is also protected from property taxes with regard to whatever value was added to your home because of the solar panels. So pretty cool. Okay, so your response might be to me, all right, Jared, that's really cool on the appraisal. I'm glad that I'm in a really good spot, actually above what I paid for it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the end sales price. Okay, so let's talk end sales price. Like, what are people actually paying when they go to sell their home with solar panels on it? And solar's been around, guys. It's been around for 20 plus years, or actually it's been around for a lot longer than that, but it's gotten a lot more popular and people have been putting it on the roofs a lot more frequently over the last 20 years. So the data's there. The data's there. You know, people say things like, oh, geez, you know, is this going to happen in my particular region? Yeah. I mean, there's no difference between if you're installing solar panels in Maine versus Florida, or California versus Seattle, or whatever. You're in a really good spot no matter what. Whether you live in a rural area or whether you're in a city, it doesn't really matter. Solar's paying for itself and then some. And in this particular case, when we start running these numbers, there's an upside that's actually even higher than that. And what I mean is higher than that appraisal price that I was showing you just a moment ago. So all the data is already there. It's not up for debate. National Bureau of Economic Research has studies like this thick. I read the whole freaking thing. And they concluded solar pays for itself and then some. The Appraisal Institute, right? Appraisal Institute, obviously trying to be objective, right? And they're trying to figure out, based off from the increase in the sales price of the home due to solar panels and comparing that to the reduction in energy costs. So in other words, if I reduce my electricity bill by X amount, is there a relationship between what the end sales price ends up being with solar panels? And what they said, basically, it's a 20-to-1 correlation. So you can go ahead and read it right on the screen. Home value increased by about $20 for every $1 decrease in annual fuel bills. All right, so let's just do some basic math. So $200 is the average electricity bill in Maine. Yours might be higher, yours might be lower, but we'll just use this as an example. $200, so $200 per month. Say that's your average times 12 months. So that's more or less $2,400 per year that you're paying for electricity. It's a 20-to-1 ROI. Okay, so $2,400 times 20. What's that come out to? $48,000. Right? That's a big number. I'm not going to guarantee you that number, but I'm just telling you that that's a pretty good upside. And I'm always saying, listen, like if the worst case scenario is solar paying for itself when you sell your home, it's basically like you got free solar. You know, because if they're paying what you paid for the solar panels and then some, then that paid for all of those solar bills. You know, again, the mortgage effect that I'm looking at. But in this particular case, the Appraisal Institute, and they did a really big study, it's a 20-to-1 relationship, a 20-to-1. And that's actually a really big number. Also, Realty Times, RIS Media, Berkeley Labs. Berkeley Labs was a really good landmark study because, people are asking, listen, like based off from the size of the system, like if I get a bigger system, should I expect that my home sell for more because I have a bigger system? And the answer there is yeah, definitely. So if you're going to compare it to the size of your system, I'm just going to quote Berkeley Labs here. We estimate that each 1 kilowatt increase in size equates to a $5,911 higher premium. Okay, so for those of you that are new to solar, the average system size is roughly a 6 kilowatt. So let's just use that as an example. So 6 kilowatt system times 5,911, we'll just make that $6,000, roughly $36,000. Roughly $36,000 that they're actually getting when they sold their home. And that's significantly above the appraised value. And it's way, way above what your purchase price was, especially considering that federal government contribution, that 30% that the federal government pays. So anyway, if you end up selling your home in the future, I just want you to be 100% confident and to be very comfortable in knowing that if you have to sell your home, if that's a situation that you're in, solar pays for itself and then some. And according to these numbers, there might even be a much bigger upside. All right, so remember when I said that I've been doing this a long time and I've basically anticipated every question that you're going to have? Here's one that I'm just going to address before it comes up. Everyone has a friend who's a real estate agent. So sometimes when the conversation of installing solar panels comes up, they oftentimes they'll say, okay, well, let me talk to my friend who's a real estate agent. I'm going to tell you exactly what they're going to say. Okay, well, if you installed solar panels, it might increase the value, it might not. We'd have to find an identical property in the same area that's sold within approximately the same period of time and did the exact same renovation, meaning installing solar panels. So that's what they're going to say. And how do I know that? Number one, of course, I've worked with a lot of realtors, but I've also taken the course myself. I've taken a course through the National Association of Realtors. So every single realtor who's certified is trained to say the exact same thing, which is basically, it depends. And you need to find an identical property that did the exact same thing. And you're going to get that exact same answer with regard to a pool, granite countertops. I want to renovate the bathroom. I'm thinking of putting on a deck. If I did those renovations, would I be able to sell my house for more money? And really what the National Association of Realtors is dealing with here is that they just don't want the liability. Like they don't want to get in trouble for promising that a property is going to sell for more than it actually does and then end up getting sued, and they don't want their agents sued. So really it's just a liability thing. So that's kind of why you're going to get kind of a nothing answer. Or, to be fair, it is possible to find identical properties in the same area that sold within the same time frame that did the same renovation, but that's a needle in a haystack. Like that's actually really hard to find. So it's kind of a nothing answer, but that's exactly what you're going to hear. But anyway, so solar is different. Solar's different. Solar's different than any other. It's not a granite countertop. It's not a deck. It's not, renovating the bathroom to make it look better or more appealing or whatever. Like we're talking about something that appraises differently. It's a separate line item in your appraisal. So the regulations that govern how appraisals are done uh, have specific rules when it comes to solar. And when it comes to actually selling a home with solar power, you really need to be working with a green designated realtor. So there's a separate course specifically on solar power and green renovations to someone's home that a real estate agent needs to get if they're going to sell a home with solar power. So if you find yourself in that situation and you're looking to sell your house and you don't know, well, first of all, if you're talking to a realtor and you're trying to sell a house with solar, the first thing that you should ask them is, do you have your green designation? Like, have you taken that course? Do you have the green certification? That's what you need to be asking them. And if they don't, they might be a fantastic real estate agent, but they're really not qualified to sell a home with solar power. And they're not going to be able to get you the kind of money that you should be getting out of your home when you sell it with solar panels. So long story short, even if you yourself are a real estate agent, very well might be the case, or you got a friend or whatever, just understand that solar is different. There's specific certifications for that. And listen, all those other renovations, pool, deck, put a new roof, renovate the kitchen, bathroom, whatever, like all those things are kind of matter of opinion type stuff. Solar makes it objectively less expensive to live in the home. So the operating cost of the home is objectively less. Okay, so solar is a separate thing. That answer basically doesn't apply to solar power. And when you are looking to sell your home, I would recommend just give us a phone call. Like the slide that I put up over here is actually just that's an example. That's a real estate agent that we worked with pretty frequently in the Austin area when I was in Texas. But there are plenty of green designated realtors, and when you get into that position of needing to sell your home and you got solar panels and you don't have a green designated realtor, give us a call. So we'll help you out. We'll likely be able to match you with a realtor who's certified and is well qualified to help you sell your home with solar panels. So that's it. Okay, so remember how I was telling you that the answer that you're pretty much going to get from any realtor is going to be, if you're looking to do whatever home renovation and you're thinking about would it add additional value and should I expect to get more money out of it when I sell the home if I do this renovation, that basically you're going to get the same canned answer pretty much from every realtor, which is going to be, okay, we need to find basically an identical property or as close to it as possible that sold within the same time frame and also did the exact same renovation. Most cases, that's pretty impossible to do, but challenge accepted. Okay, so here's an example just for the peace of mind of realtors who might be watching this video. So here you go. It's right here. Side-by-side comparison. It's identical homes, exact same floor plan. The coloring looks a little bit different, because the photos were taken from two different websites, but they're identical. It's the same freaking house, okay? And they sold within 3 months of each other, and one is at $189 without solar panels, and the one with solar panels selling at $219. So, stupid question. Do you want to be the 189 or do you want to be the 219? Which would you prefer? Okay, so that's the side-by-side comparison. So we've covered all of our bases. And for you realtors out there, here's the proof you want. So I think this is a pretty good point to address a question that I get all the time, which is, can I take my solar panels with me when I move? And the answer to that question is, yeah, of course you can. I mean, that's one of the benefits of owning something. I mean, you can do with your solar panels really whatever you want. But really, the question is that the best decision? So if you were to take your solar panels from one property and then bring it to another property, um, you'd have to deinstall the whole thing. And of course, those panels are attached to your roof and they're properly sealed, of course. But once we remove everything, there's a whole bunch of work that we need to do on your roof. And we need to reseal everything again and replace all the shingles. And then if you brought the solar panels to another property, uh, uh, you got to realize too that that particular system might not be appropriately sized for that new property. You might need more electricity, you might need less, you might not be able to fit all those solar panels on that particular roof. And really, the biggest thing is that I just finished explaining to you that solar, in a worst case scenario, it pays for itself. It pays for itself when you sell your home. So at the very least, you're getting that mortgage effect. You're getting all of that, all those solar payments going into the value of the property, and you're taking that with you when you go. And you might have an upside beyond like the cost of the actual system. So can you take them with you? Yes. But should you? I wouldn't. I mean, financially, you're much better off taking that money, the additional value, the additional bump that you're going to get in the sales price of the home because you got solar panels when you're selling your home. Take that money and just put it towards a new solar power system at your new property that's appropriately sized for that particular home. All right, guys, you made it. What are we at? About like 2 hours or so. I appreciate you making it to the end of the video. I understand I can be a bit long-winded at times, but that's really just because I want you to be 100% certain. I know that people have concerns. I know what those concerns are going to be. And if you go back through this video and review, you'll find that every single concern that you have is actually covered. So this should be very, very simple for you at this point. Maybe your brain's full, maybe it's not. Maybe you just kind of need to like sleep and let it kind of digest, and then take a look at it tomorrow. But it shouldn't really take you any longer than that to make a decision. Like solar's simple. Like it can't get any simpler than, do you want to spend more for electricity or do you want to spend less? It's a pretty simple question. The answer to that couldn't be any more clear. All right, so solar is saving you an incredible amount of money. I put a summary, wrong way. I put a summary slide right here, just kind of listing the benefits again, just to remind you, what happens if you stay versus what happens if you end up moving. And if you stay, good Lord, you're getting that price protection. Remember that calculator example? Just the damage that a 10% yearly rate increase does to you when that $200 bill becomes $220 and $240 and then upwards of $300, and then it starts getting even crazier than that just a few years into the future. So getting that protection, it's protection, guys. Even if you're not saving a ton of money or even any money like your first year, you're protected for the next 30 years. And you're not spending more than what you are right now. You're switching out your current electricity bill for a lower monthly solar bill to replace it. So even if they're the same, you're protected for 30 years. And that's a really big deal. That's tens of thousands, and actually in most cases, it's up over $100,000 worth of total savings. And then, like I said, listen, you can either own your electrical production or they're going to own you. Like that's really what this comes down to. So benefits of ownership, when you pay that sucker off, you don't owe anybody anything. It's done. It's gone. You're your own electricity plant. So you're producing your own electricity. You're your own mini utility company. And when you've paid that off, it's done, and you can just enjoy the electricity from your solar panels without having to spend any more money at that point. And of course, that protects you. I went over that, but it's going to free you up as well. Put that money towards something else. Put it in an investment. Put it towards your kids. Put it towards your retirement. Whatever you want. But saving money. Gosh, it couldn't be any more clear. And I just wanted to make sure that I covered both scenarios. Whether you stay in your home or if you end up moving in the future, right? Because you need to feel 100% certain. So that's why I went through all that information with you and made sure that I covered everything just completely, is because I want you to have zero doubts. And if at the end of the day, whether you stay in your home or whether you move, you're better financially in either scenario, then there's no reason for you not to go solar. The answer should be absolutely clear. If you move, worst case scenario, system's paying for itself. In most cases, it's above and beyond that. So your purchase, the total price of the system, what you're actually paying after that federal government contribution, what it appraises at, and actually what people tend to get is usually a bit higher. But good Lord, worst case scenario, it's paying for itself. Instead of throwing that money that you're paying on the electricity bill, you might as well be throwing it out the window if you don't go solar. But if you go solar, it's equity. It's just like your mortgage. So whether you stay in your home or whether you move, you're good either way. Thank you for sticking with this all the way to the end. Really, all we got to cover after this, and I'm going to put this in a separate section, is what size solar power system should you go with based off from your current bill. And we'll go ahead and break that down, and we'll go ahead and break down the application process. But my suggestion here, guys, time's wasting, okay? And this isn't me just, wanting you to go solar. I mean, these are cold, hard facts. So that 30% that the federal government is contributing towards the solar panels, I mean, solar is going to be a great idea even after that's done. But that 30% is just absolutely huge. And in order to get that, you have to be able to claim your solar panels on your 2025 taxes. So time's wasting. This is something that should be simple. You should be able to make a decision immediately because it's just, it can't be any simpler than this. And taking advantage of that federal income tax credit, that makes it all the better. So again, thank you. Check out the other videos and the application process that I've lined up for you. It's pretty easy to apply, and we'll get your install done just as soon as we possibly can and get you saving some money.